Weirdos, a family of 7.
I have a chameleon.
Living, working and travelling full-time in our self-converted Sprinter van. We've been travelling full-time for nearly 2 years with a combination of Brexit, leaving the EU, the Schengen area and the COVID restrictions. We've been looking at ways to expand our travel throughout the rest of this year and going forward. So welcome to a new series on our channel as we look at the D7 residency or national visa application for Portugal. So morning and welcome to the 4th instalment of our D7 Portuguese national visa application. It's been a fun ride, isn't it?
Yeah, we're still in the UK. We're still waiting.
So in bad news, our application got declined. And we'll run through that process, but I think we've been unlucky in our application because we know lots of people that have applied who've not been asked the same sort of questions as us, and I've had a very straightforward application with one family that we know that applied the same time as us. They got their visa in 15 days and they weren't asked any questions after their initial meeting at VFS Global in London. Whereas we've been asked, as per our previous video, quite a lot of questions that are not seemingly required according to the Portuguese
Well, not necessarily
website.
questions, but our documents. They keep asking for more documents.
Yeah.
Bits of paper.
So where are we in summary then, Missy?
Building on the previous videos where we told you everything else that they've asked for, the next thing they asked for was proof that we had a Portuguese bank account, which it doesn't say anywhere online that you need. And other people have had their visa applications approved without having a Portuguese bank, but they've requested one from us. They said if you don't currently have one, you can open one online, and then they named 3 or 4 different banks. And then I mailed and said, but we have Revolut accounts, which many Portuguese people have as their only bank account. It's usable in Portugal. Is that not sufficient? They said no. And then they mailed you, didn't they?
Yeah, so they mailed me and I said, well, I use Barclays. And we provided proof that you can still continue to use your Barclays account whilst in Portugal. And going back to the previous couple that got their application approved in 15 days, they also had a Barclays account and they gave the same information to VFS, and VFS said that was fine. The Portuguese embassy said that was fine. They weren't asked to provide a bank account. So then following that email, they mailed me and said I needed a Portuguese bank account as I was the lead applicant. And they sent me a list of 6 banks that I could open a bank account with in Portugal from the UK. So I contacted all 6 banks and I was unable to open a bank account with any of those banks because they required an actual copy of my passport.
Which are being held
In Portugal
as
by
part of
the
our
embassy.
application.
So I then had to contact my lawyer in Portugal, who said that she could open a bank account on my behalf, which cost €200. So that was an unnecessary expense, and that was pretty straightforward. And there was only one bank that she could do that with that didn't require a hard copy of my passport. And I've got a photo of my passport, and they said that was acceptable, and that was with Novo Banco. That was all pretty straightforward. Took about a week and was pretty fast. So that's all fine. So I now have a Portuguese bank account. Additionally, we were asked for a NIF number, which you can apply for online through nifonline.pt. But again, of 5 or 6 other people that I've spoken to during the process who've also applied, none of them were asked for a NIF number. So it's all a bit odd. It seems to be fairly inconsistent. Seems to depend on who processes your application.
Yeah, that's what we think. We think that we've just got somebody who's a bit of a job's worth.
Yeah.
So other people have got, you know, a guy who gets the application, then they read it through and they go, yes, you've got all the documents, stamp, fine, approved, and we've got ours, and they've obviously gone through and they've gone, well, let's have this detail and that detail. And they don't even give you one, you know, you could have had one email where it said we need this whole list of things, including the bank account and the NIF number and this, that and the other, but they haven't. So it's like they're making it up as they go along.
Yeah,
every time we provide the next lot of documents, they mail back 2 weeks later and go, now we need this other document. Or did they not know that we needed it 2 weeks ago? Apparently not. Very frustrating.
So do you have the date of when we originally applied there?
It was the 23rd of February that we went to London and applied.
23rd of February, so 23rd of February to March to April to May, so that's 3 months, give or take, to get declined. And then when we were declined, we had an email saying that we could appeal, and looking at the content of the email, I don't think they really understood our initial application information. And again, that was another problem. When we went to VFS in London, we took loads of documentation to support our financial situation, and the lady on the counter there didn't take half of it, did she?
No, she just wanted the bank statements, but the bank statements aren't proof of what you've been earning for the last however many years from your businesses. They're just proof of what you've had in your bank for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
And we've all been going through lockdown, so our amounts in our bank have changed.
So my advice would be that before you make your application, that you set out a letter detailing all your forms of income, passive, pensions, whatever it might be, savings and so on, and then name each one of those, and then have a file that you attach to it with the corresponding name. So for example, in the case of a pension, if you've got £400 a month coming in from your pension, put on your letter, I have an income of £400 per month, which equates to X euros per month from my pension. See attachment 3, and then attachment 3 would be proof of that pension. Add all those up and detail them specifically so that the person on the other end can then quickly look at your paperwork and go, all right, so Mr. and Mrs. Smith have X, Y and Z, which totals that, which is above the minimum requirement per annum. Job done.
That was what I was expecting the person at our initial appointment to do. That's why I was so confused when she said, can I see your documents? And she just wanted me to hand over a big wedge of paper. I thought she was going to say, can we see this proof and then that proof and then this proof? And I'd hand them all over one by one, and she'd tick them all off of her tick sheet to show that we'd covered all the bases. She didn't have a tick sheet, it was nothing like that. So you have to do it.
And the other bad news is we got a lot of contact online through our YouTubes and the process of applying. Got loads of people that have applied primarily down to our videos who've been approved, so that's great. So it is possible, and in their case their application was pretty straightforward. But then there's also 2 other good examples. I had a couple who were declined, same as us. They then appealed, no problem. They got through their appeal, got their visa. And then another couple applied, they got declined, they appealed, their appeal got turned down, they reapplied with the same information as their previous application, and then they got accepted.
It's crazy. That proves, doesn't it? It's down to the person on the other end that's going through the applications. Yeah. They must have got a different person that looked at it and went, yeah, that's fine.
So whilst it's bad news, I guess it kind of makes for good YouTubing.
Sure. Read out what we got as our declining. So we got an email again from VFS. You only get contact with VFS, you don't actually speak to the embassy at the other end. So we had an email saying, we regret to inform you that your visa requests were refused by the relevant authorities in Portugal. They provided as justification for the refusal the requested documentation was not provided, which is a bit mad given how much we provided. After further consultation, we believe CEF had some doubts regarding the origin of your income, and more significantly, how and if you will be able to maintain your income while in Portugal. At this point, you can appeal this decision through what is called Audiência Prévia, And to do so, we would simply ask you to reply to this email stating the reasons for your appeal, and more importantly, providing documentation that will attest to your income past and future. And then they say what it can include. We then wrote a big email, exactly what Don was just saying. We set out all of our forms of income, all of our forms of money that we have in various places, provided all of the proof that we'd taken to the appointment that they didn't take off of us. So we think it's rock solid. They can't decline us on grounds of income because we have more than required. So we sent them that in an email as requested, and then they sent us 3 forms, one for each of the 3 of us, that we had to print, sign and send back. The forms were written in Portuguese, and they were basically just saying that we wanted to go through the audiencia previa process, and that we had 10 days to respond with from the date of being told that our application had been declined. So we responded within 2 days, so it's fine. We don't know when they're going to get back to us. I've emailed VFS and they've just said, sorry, can't tell you that.
And it's all a bit crazy really, because for the sake of transparency, when we made our initial application, I had around £15,000 in the bank, which nearly covered the entire 3 required amounts for myself, Missy and Rosie. But additionally, I provided evidence of, as it just said in that email, of my company accounts for my company. Missy provided evidence of her company accounts, and what was crazy about that, which to be honest I found a bit annoying, was her income on accounts is about 3 times my income, and yet they asked me as the male, saying I had to sponsor her.
I'll sponsor you, honey,
as
it's
her
all right.
husband, which I thought was a bit of an outdated process. You know, in a marital scenario, particularly where, you know, you consider yourselves equals, but anyway, that's by the by. So it's a bit frustrating because, you know, genuinely we far exceed the minimum requirements.
Yep.
And in fact, we could probably use 1 year's income to cover our minimum requirements for the entire 5 years of the visa.
So that's where we're at. We've appealed. We're waiting to hear back from the appeal. We can't set off, even though borders are opening. It's exciting to see, isn't it? You know, Spain and
Yeah.
Portugal, nearly France. Everyone's relaxing and opening their borders. Some of them you don't even need PCR tests anymore, which is lovely because we weren't looking forward to those. But we don't have any passports. We have to wait until this appeal has finished. And if they decline us, we're just going to have our passports back, aren't we?
Yep.
We're just going to go. We're going. We don't want to stay in the UK anymore.
So yeah, that's a good point. I've had a few people message me that I've spoken to privately on Messenger. I've already told that we've been declined, and quite a few of those people have said, well, why don't you just leave anyway? Because they hadn't started the process, so they weren't aware that when you make your application at VSF London or Manchester or Edinburgh, you give your passports to VFS, who then courier them to the embassy in Portugal, and you don't get them back either until you've got your visa, because the visa is a page in your passport, or you get them back when you've been properly declined. So we're stuck in England, we can't leave, we don't have our passports.
There is a little note there. They did say that if at any point you needed to travel urgently, for example, you could request your passports back, at which point they would pause your application, courier your passports back, you could use them to travel. When you're back from your travels, you give your passports back to VFS, pay again for more couriers, and then they would send them out and carry on your application.
Yeah, and it does seem crazy that our passports are at the embassy in Portugal,
which is where we want to
and
be.
we can't go to Portugal. And then there's mixed information online. A lot of people have said, well, why don't you just apply in Portugal? Well, the bottom line is you have to make the application from your country of origin. So if you're a British national, you have to apply in England. If you're an American national, you have to apply in America, and so on. However, there are ways around that. So if you get a lawyer in Portugal, you can apply in Portugal through a lawyer, but not directly with the CEF in Portugal. And that is roughly €2,000 per applicant.
Ouch.
So that's an expensive way around it, or not, depending if you want to pay out that kind of money, which we don't really. So at the moment we're just sort of waiting in limbo again. We don't know how long the appeal takes.
I'm pretty confident. I'm pretty confident.
So. Yeah.
Having rewritten out the financial stuff, I think if we'd done that in the first place, we probably would have been approved.
Yeah.
So.
And also, our circumstances have changed for the better because we've been organising our finances in the UK ready to go to Portugal. So when we put our appeal in, we actually had 3 times the amount of money in our accounts that we had when we applied,
Yeah.
which in theory should straight away get us accepted, but
Hopefully.
who knows?
No. And then of course we're still waiting to, you know, as soon as if we get accepted and they send our passports back, then we have to organise the pets going for their health checks and stuff like that.
Yeah. And that's a different story altogether, but takes a little while, doesn't it?
Yep.
Around 10 days to get your animal health certificate for each pet. And then it's valid for 10 days, and during that process you've also got to organise your PCR test to get into France.
Yep.
So all fun.
We've heard that it's gorgeous weather in Portugal. We've got
Yeah.
lots of friends over there who keep telling us, oh, it's sunny, I'm out in just a pair of shorts. And we're in England and it's freezing and it's raining.
Yeah.
It's practically summer
And it's
and
very
it's
cold.
horrible
Yeah.
out. It's like February weather.
So if you're wondering about our backdrop, we popped back to my mum's for a few days, just to pack a few things up, and then on Thursday, which will have passed when this video goes live on Sunday, we're off to Willowfields.
Oh yeah. So as you're watching this right now, we're partying at Willow Fields.
Yeah,
with
probably
all-
around a campfire with 30 other Vanlifers.
Yeah.
So that's something to look
Get to
forward
see
to.
Mandy and Lou and Greg and John
And lots of other
and lots of people that are friends we haven't met yet.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to
So it'll
that.
probably be raining. But
Yeah.
So I guess the message is we're a bit frustrated, but don't be deterred if you're applying. I think the general kind of message and feeling I get online, and I don't mean this in any offensive way to Portugal, but it's an extremely bureaucratic process in Portugal. It does seem to depend who you get for anything, whatever that may be. So you just have to kind of accept that, keep going, steam ahead, don't be put off.
Nope.
And I think
Stay
when
positive.
absolutely.
It'll happen.
So next month we'll be in Portugal, we'll have our visa and we'll have a nice piece of land and it'll all end
Oh
happily ever
yeah.
after.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
So thanks for watching on our slightly turbulent journey to get our visas.
Yep.
And thanks for subscribing as usual and all your lovely comments. Hope you're all staying well and you're looking forward to some decent weather if you're in the UK or already experiencing it if you're in Spain, Portugal or so on. And we'll see you on the road very soon. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Hello. I'd just like to say I got my passport. I'm ready to go. I just don't have any wikis. I got a very sore foot.
Bye bye. Stay sore.
Thanks for watching.
Send me wikis.
Yes, wikis on the buymedewiki.com.